Hey guys, over the last few months we've talked a lot about ASIC mining, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about the whole cryptocurrency mining community. ASIC miners have been, there's been a new one being released every month or so, and whenever one is released, everyone talks about it, and there's another discussion about when you'll break even with an ASIC mining machine and whether you should buy GPUs. Now, when I've talked about ASIC mining machines in the past, someone nearly always brings up the break-even point and the ROI date, and they will say that the break-even point is in 3 months, but if too many people buy it, if the hash rate is too high, you might never break even and you're left with a doorstop. That's correct. I do think that's correct. When you're buying an ASIC mining machine, you kind of need to look into 3 months of the future. You need to take a risk, you need to take a chance, because you don't know how many's been sold by, for example, Bitmain. You don't know what the hash rate is going to be, and you don't always know if a coin is going to change algorithm because of this ASIC mining machine being released. So there are some unknown factors, but in many ways I think it's quite a simpler way to calculate your break-even point, because yes, you are taking some risks, but you're just looking 3 months into the future. Now, the interesting thing about all that is that all those comments are valid, but the people that are saying those comments tend to be GPU miners, and those people aren't asking the same questions about GPUs. And everyone keeps bringing up the ROI date, the break-even point with ASIC mining machines, and they're not asking the same questions with GPUs. People don't talk about the fact that you can buy a GPU and never break even. In fact, you could lose money on it, a lot of money on it. And yes, GPUs have resale value. ASIC miners tend to be used until the door stops. But it's still a valid question. It is still something you have to look at. So that's what I want to do in this video. I want to look at the return on investment date, the break-even point. And, the problem with this, and the problem why I think a lot of people aren't talking about this, is that it's a very, very difficult thing to calculate. It really is, because, as I said, with ASIC mining machines, there's a few things to consider, as in, did you get in batch 1? How many do you think they've sold? Is this coin going to fork? What's the news about all that? Can it be overclocked? There's different things like that affect your break-even point, if you can get to the break-even point. But with GPUs, it's even harder. And one of the reasons is, if you think about it, an ASIC mining machine, if it breaks even in 3 months, you just have to try and predict what's going to happen in 1 quarter. So 3 months of the year, you have to predict, right, what's the market going to be like? But if you're hoping for a GPU break-even point of a year and a half, whatever it may be, you need to start thinking, okay, what's going to happen in a year? And if you see things going through in waves in cryptocurrency, there's a bear run, there's a bull run, there's, it goes up, it goes down. It's harder to predict the more you go into the future. And this is where it becomes harder for GPUs, because you could be in a, I bought cards in a bull run, and things are very different when the market goes down. I am making less than a quarter of what I did in a bull run. But here's the thing, if we do enter another bull run, all of a sudden, all my calculations are very, very different. Of course, it'll be very different in an ASIC mining machine, if you bought an ASIC miner as well. But with GPU miners, because your break-even point is generally a year, or perhaps a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, but because you're over this longer period of time, you're more susceptible to what happens in the market as far as daily profits go. Now, I came across this article today. I don't agree with everything in this article, but fair play to the person who wrote it. I'm not sure if it's who wrote it, but it's maybe signed at the bottom, is it? Okay, Samantha. So fair play to Samantha Buxton. I see what she was trying to do, but there's a few things she hasn't got right. So what she's done is a comparison between NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti, AMD RX 570 4GB, NVIDIA Titan V, NVIDIA 1070 Ti, NVIDIA 1080 Ti. I think I can see why she did certain things. Like, the reason is, like, she explains at the start how she did this research. Now, she's paying 14 pence in the UK. Now, I'm in the UK as well. She's equating 14 pence to 20 cents in the USA. I'm in the UK. I think I'm paying about 11 or 12 pence. So I'm paying a little bit less. So she's paying a little bit higher than what the market is. You could actually get that a little bit cheaper. What she's also done is she's used NiceHash's profitability calculator. Now, this is probably more of a sticking point, and I can see why she's did this, because if you look at what to mine, you scroll down, I've selected one 1080 Ti, I've put 18 cents here, but if I just put 20 because that's what she used, this will show you the daily profit of a 1080 Ti, and well, it isn't happy reading. Now, NiceHash is, or nearly always is, near the top for one of the algorithms, but well, it's quite a generalized way to look at it because she makes a lot of assumptions. First is she's using NiceHash, and NiceHash assumes that you're mining lots of different algorithms, that you've just, you're mining whatever the most profitable coin being bought that day is as far as hash power goes. Because remember, with NiceHash, all you're doing is selling hash power. You're not mining a specific coin. You can be mining lots of different coins. And with NiceHash, you can limit it to one algorithm. You can do that. I've did that with Lyra2Z when the weather was very warm here. But if you're doing that, then your daily profits are going to go down. So let's assume that you leave it general and you don't optimize your GPUs, which is something that I prefer to do. I prefer to mine a specific algorithm, and I prefer to tweak my GPUs to optimize it for that algorithm. And if you've looked at my videos recently for Ethereum, for Equihash 1445, you will see very, very different things. In the last stream, with 1445, I'm taking the memory clock down to minus 502. Then with Ethereum, I'm bringing it all the way back up to like plus 700. Every algorithm needs to be tweaked in a different way as far as power and all that as well. Now, one of the assumptions she has made here is she's just quoted the actual power consumption of each clock. So she's got power consumption, 75 watts. For this one, 300 watts. 1070 Ti, 180 watts. 1080 Ti, 250 watts. Now, again, I'm not criticizing her because I think you need to generalize when you're doing an article like that. You're trying to have a, you can't just say, okay, you would underclock it to this level or whatever. It makes calculating things a little bit harder. But what she's done is looked at basically the quoted watts price. But I don't run my GPUs like that. With an ASIC miner, people don't talk about electricity too much because they're more efficient. If you look at the Z9 Mini running at 300 watts, it's the same as the Titan V there, or it's, just a little bit higher than a 1080 Ti running at full speed, running, at normal levels, 100%. But you're not thinking too much about electricity because it's one of the smaller costs of an ASIC mining machine. Over the period of time, the daily returns should be significantly higher than that. Very, very different story with GPUs. With GPUs, electricity is it's a killer, and it can be the difference between you making a lot of money and making no money, or even losing money. And this is where it becomes harder with electricity as well, because she's assuming that everyone's running a GPU at full speed at 100%. And obviously, she has to pick a figure. She's picked 20 cents here, which is on the high side, I think, if you look around the world. But let's look at what she said anyway. I'm not trying to crap on what she's did. I do realise that she had to pick some values, etc. She had to pick some values, and she's also bought new GPUs instead of talking about used and things like that as well. Right, so 1050 Ti, she's got the break-even point at 231 days. She's got the 570 at 359 days. The Titan V at, where are we? 1 year and 1 month, so 13 months. I don't know why she wrote 1 year, 1 month, and then wrote 15 months, right? The 1070 Ti is 15 months, and the 1080 Ti is also 15 months. So I'll link to this article, you can check it out. Now, she's saying there the 1050 Ti's look to be the best option in the moment without risking too much of an upfront. I would not rush out and buy 1050 Ti's. 4 gigabytes. Over the next year or so, there might be some algorithm. Because you might see, for example, Equihash being changed 1445 to another, changing the NK parameters where we need even more memory. Personally, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you should be going out and buying those kind of bargains. But for me, I'd be looking at cards that are still going to be able to be used in a year's time. 1050 Ti's, there might be some algorithms that, because there's a fight against these mine machines, they might not be profitable. So I disagree with some things in the way she's did that, but fair play to her, good article, and I like what she's trying to do as far as estimate a return, a break-even point. But this is where, this article does illustrate how hard it is to even calculate that break-even point, because she's quoting 250 watts for a 1080 Ti. And can I bring up this here? If I bring up my awesome miner window here, you should be able to see down the bottom, I've got my 1080 Ti's here, and they're around the 160 watts mark. So I've got them about 55%, 60% power, I think it is. And again, that depends on the algorithm. If you're running everything at full speed and you're doing a general one where you're changing different algorithms all the time, well, you're going to burn up more electricity. What I prefer to do is mine specific coins or profit switch between certain coins and the same algorithms. But looking on what to mine, people are talking about ASIC mining machine. They're talking about ASIC mining machines, and you've got a 1080 Ti there, which is actually about the same price as a Z9 Mini, which gives you 16,000 Equihash sols. But look at this return. 47 cents there, 41 cents, 30 cents, 22 cents with NiceHash Equihash per day. And this is after you taking her 20 cents per day electricity. That's horrific. It's so bad. It's sad. It really is sad. It's depressing. But this, these daily returns is why myself and many other people, we choose to mine coins that aren't even on what to mine. We choose to mine speculative coins. We try to mine projects that we believe in. And it also brings up this, this is the same for ASIC mining, but also brings up the idea of you're just trying to mine the coins you want, and you're thinking that, a year down the line, if you start thinking of breaking even with the GPU or even with an ASIC miner, and you start thinking about, your cost and your profit per day right now, I don't think it really works out, because basically, if a coin is on an exchange, instead of buying hardware, you can just buy those coins. But if you buy a GPU, one of the benefits of a GPU over an ASIC mining machine is versatility. With a GPU, you can mine any coin, pretty much any coin, apart from CPU only coins. But granted, GPU miners don't mine certain coins because the daily return on those coins is poor. Because, look at Equihash there, that used to be the most profitable one, but because of ASIC miners taking over, you just can't compete with ASIC mining machines. I don't have all the answers to this. And as I said, when I'm mining, I'm mining thinking 3 months, 6 months down the line. I do sometimes mine speculative coins, and I keep them for a few weeks and I sell them, or I keep them for longer than that. But there's a lot of coins that aren't on what to mine, so you really do need to investigate in pools, and then you need to start investigating coins that are on different exchanges that aren't, that aren't accepted by what to mine. So you also have to think about the fact, going back to what I was saying earlier, is that if an ASIC miner is to break even in 90 days, a GPU, they're talking 12 to 15 months here, going by her calculations on average. I know the 1050 Ti was a little bit less. But on average, say a year to a year and a couple of months. Over that period of time, the market will be up and down and up and down. And there is going to be periods like we've had over the last few months where the market is down. But see all these poor returns that we're seeing just now? In a bull run, a 1080 Ti could, we saw it last year, but in theory, if we enter another bull run, one 1080 Ti here could be $2, it could be $3, it could be $4 or $5 per day. It really does change what the hell is happening. It really does. Prices will go up. The prices of coins will go up. There's still, the same amount of GPUs out there before there's another crash and everyone's flooding at the market to try to buy used and new GPUs. But this is what I'm trying to illustrate, because with GPUs, the period, the break-even point is so much further in the future. It is kind of hard to predict what's going to happen. When I bought my GPUs, I did buy it when the market was, just before it peaked. In that time, I didn't realise, well, I knew it could happen, but I didn't think it would drop to the level that it did. I didn't think my daily returns would go for a 1080 Ti, go from $3, $4, $5 a day down to like 20 cents, 30 cents a day. I also didn't envision that a lot of the algorithms and a lot of the coins that I was mining, I wouldn't be able to mine anymore because ASIC miners came out and they stopped me from mining it. The Equihash miner, even the Kryptonite one with Monero and things like that as well. I know they did fork, but So there's so many things that happen here and so many things to consider. And I honestly think the break-even point for GPUs is something that we all have to start looking at. And it's something that everyone keeps bringing up with ASIC miners, but they're not bringing it up with GPUs. But we should. This is what has been on my mind recently because I have been thinking about buying some new hardware. And I keep coming back and forth as to what to do. So I'm going to do a live stream soon, guys, and we want to talk about this for a few hours with you guys and talk about this in more depth. But what this video was just, I guess, an introduction to this and really just give you some food for thought as to basically what you should be looking at as far as the break-even point with GPUs. If you're looking at the break-even point for GPUs, in this current climate, I would be looking at used GPUs because the prices of used GPUs right now are pretty good. And that they will, if you buy used instead of new, you know, you go back to the start of the year when the market was, you know, an upward swing. I bought new cards because the prices of used cards, like on eBay, when I bought my card at $750, people were selling it second hand for $680. And at that point, I thought, well, I want to buy from the manufacturer. If there's any problems, I want the full guarantee. But now what we're seeing is that the used price is quite a big bit cheaper than the full retail price. And that really does make a difference. So everything we've talked about so far, everything this lady talked about here so far as well, if you can change these prices and you start putting in used prices, then the whole thing changes. All of a sudden, you're not talking 15 months break even, you're talking 6 months break even, you're talking maybe 4 months, maybe 7 months. It really does depend. I've seen some people leaving comments saying that they got absolute bargains and they think they'll break even in 4 months. And this flips the whole GPU mining argument on its head. So there's so many things to consider, guys. I think in the current climate right now, it does seem to be in a bear market. Used GPUs seem to be the way to go. But on a bull run, it does actually seem to make more sense to buy new. Because people with the GPUs don't want to sell them for any, you know, for a low price because the market is good. Again, it comes down to the fact there's so many things to consider. There really is so many things to consider. A lot of people just don't want to buy used GPUs as well, so that's something else to consider. We've all got different electricity costs. We all want to mine different coins. We've all got different ideas of when we want to get a return. Some people just want to break even. Other people will want to, you know, mine coins that can't be bought and then just hold them for years. There's so many ways to look at that, you know, this whole thing. It's a very interesting subject. But personally, right now, the way that I'm looking at it, if I'm going to be buying any GPUs or start another mining rig, create another mining rig, I'll be looking at used GPUs. I won't be looking at new ones. And maybe it's a little bit unfair because now I'm comparing used GPUs with new ASIC mining machines. But used ASIC mining machines tend to not be profitable. And that's the only reason why the people who buy them would sell them. So, you know, maybe it is a fair comparison. So I don't have all the answers, guys. That's the thing. And I've had a lot of discussions with people talking about the break-even point and the return on investment point. And you can just look at the daily return of a certain coin. You could buy a used GPU and say, I'm only mining Ethereum or only mining a Kryptonite coin over the next few months and then a break-even. Then I'll start experimenting. But everyone is tackling this in a different way. So yes, I just, you know, the purpose of this video, I don't have all the answers yet. This is something I want to talk about in a live stream. But I want to just raise this point. We need to start talking about the break-even point of GPUs. We need to start looking at whether we should be buying used GPUs instead of new GPUs. We also need to consider, you know, is the break-even point too long? Should we be looking at FPGAs? Should we be looking at ASIC mining machines? Should we be looking at masternodes? These are things that we should all be asking. Don't just say, I'm a GPU miner, I'll always be a GPU miner. Be open to change because this market is going to change and you need to adapt or die. So be ready to change your whole mindset as to how you make money online with cryptocurrency. Because over the next few years, we might see GPUs become more popular because of different algorithms, or we might see them fade into obscurity because of what ASIC mining machines and FPGAs can do. So be flexible, be adaptable, and try and look at all sides of the story to try and get a better picture of how you want to move forward, you know, your aversion to risk, your cost of electricity, whether you want to buy used or new. Look at everything, guys, before you jump in there and start spending money. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, please do leave a comment below, and I'll speak to you very soon in a live stream. Take care.